In this video, we go through my top 10 albums. Hi everybody, and welcome to this video. Let me start by apologising. It's been a while since my last video. Basically life's got in my way, work's been busy, it's been hot, I've been a bit ill, all that sort of stuff. So apologies, but here we go with my top 10 albums. I shall start by giving some honourable mentions of albums that could have made the top 10 but were just outside. And that is, I've positioned this so I can't see my list. That was bad planning. Okay, so Kind of Blue by Miles Davis, classic album. Escapology, my favourite Robbie Williams album. Songs in the Key of Life, legendary Stevie Wonder album. It's Great When You're Straight, yeah, the debut album by Black Grape, and far and away their best work. Songs from the Deep Forest. That's the first full-length album by Duke Special, who's a big favourite of mine. And As I Am by Alicia Keys, my favourite of her albums. And again, she's a big favourite of mine. Also, off the top of my head, Queen's first album, Making Movies by Dire Straits. All, yeah, everyone's that spring to mind. For my top 10, I've limited myself to one album per artist. Otherwise it could quite easily just be 10 Prince songs, or 10 Prince albums, or 7 Prince albums and 3 Beatles albums. You know, it could quite easily just be clogged up with lots of albums by 1 or 2 artists. So as I say, I've limited it to 1 per artist. The order is pretty much ambiguous, probably the word to use. Number 1 is number 1, but otherwise they're all could equal number 2, I suppose. But yes, without further ado, let's crack on. I haven't brought out the CDs to physically show you because some of them are in hard to reach places, basically. So what I'll do, I'll stick the album cover up here or here, whichever one I find easiest when I'm editing this. Anyway, number 10 is Blue by Joni Mitchell. Joni's 3rd album, I think it was, from early 70s, absolute classic. I got into Joni through Prince. She was his favourite songwriter. I think he used to say it was her use of colours that appealed to him, but he was absolutely in awe of her. He covered A Case of You. First of all, he did it live at the 1983 benefit concert where much of Purple Rain was debuted and the bass tracks were recorded for the album for some tracks. He performed it live there. Then many years later on the Live Experience tour, he would perform it live then as well, and he recorded it on his One Night Alone album, and that version was subsequently used on a tribute Joni Mitchell CD compilation. So it was that song in particular that I fell in love with. So with his blessings, decided to track her down. Blue was the first album of hers that I've got, and it is just a classic. Sunday morning, lie back, switch off, just listen to the beauty of the music, the words, the voice, everything. Like all the albums on this list, it's just an album that flows brilliantly from start to finish and can't fault it. So yes, number 10 is Blue by Joni Mitchell. Number 9 is Parklife by Blur. Blur, easily one of my favourite bands. Parklife was the first album of theirs I got. I got it through Britannia Music back in '94 when I was at uni, and listened to it over and over and over again. And again, just perfect album. All the tracks are classics, even the hidden tracks and the instrumentals, they all just work brilliantly. Peak Blur. What can I say? You know the hits: Parklife, Girls and Boys, End of the Century. This is Love, that wasn't a single. To the End. But then there's classic tracks like This Is a Low and Bad Head. Yeah, just Lot 105, even the, as I say, the instrumental I just adore. Magic America, Jubilee. So many brilliant tracks on it. Blur's Parklife. Number 7 is the most recent album on this list. It's from 3 or 4 years ago, and that's Wanderlust by Sophie Ellis-Bextor. I was a fan of Sophie's, always have been ever since she came on the scene. Always struck me as a lovely person, as well as being very talented, and always loved her voice. Musically, I like her early stuff, her disco stuff. It's all great stuff, but it's not my main genre that I like to listen to, shall we say. But I like it, and I've got all her stuff. At the time this album came out, I had her I didn't have her really early stuff. I had a previous album, which I'd picked up a signed copy of, which was very good, but again, it wasn't wow. But then she was on Strictly, and that just made me like her even more, because she came across so well on that, and she was so good as well. And when the first single from this, Youngblood, came out, it just blew me away. So different from her earlier stuff, and just a beautiful, beautiful ballad. So I was really excited for the album anyway. I pre-ordered it. Sorry, a bit of fluff on the camera. I pre-ordered it, and when it came, stuck it on, started listening to it. About 2/3 of the way through, I was so in love with the album, but I knew I was going to be playing it straight away again. I ended up listening to it 5 times back to back. It is a brilliant, brilliant album. I'm getting emotional quite talking about it. It is so good. It's sort of got a Russian vibe to the album, or Eastern European, and there's some beautiful waltz on there. It's just, oh, just the whole thing. The songwriting is brilliant. It's so different from what she's done before. Her voice is amazing. It's just, I urge everybody who watches this, go out and buy Wanderlust by Sophie Ellis-Bextor. No matter what you think, your preconceptions of her, it's just a genius album. The follow-up, Familiar, is very, very good as well. Doesn't quite hit the peak of Wanderlust for me, but again, it's very, very good, and I highly recommend it. But yeah, Wanderlust, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, genius. Speaking of genius, number 6, it's my favourite album by my favourite band, and that is Promenade by The Divine Comedy. Love, love, love Divine Comedy. Neil Hannon is a genius. His songwriting is superb, his voice is superb, his personality is superb. I've seen him live many times. Promenade was his second/third album. The original lineup of The Divine Comedy, when they were a teenage band from Northern Ireland, Enniskillen, was a REM-like album called Fanfare for the Comic Muse. Neil has subsequently basically disowned that album. He doesn't count it as one of their albums. The band split. Neil went out on his own, retained the Divine Comedy name. First album was Liberation, and then the second was Promenade. And it's a song cycle that describes the story of a date of 2 teenagers who knew each other as kids and have sort of got back together and are falling in love as teenagers. And it's a story about what happens during the day, reminiscences about their childhood. It just, again, it flows beautifully. The songwriting is genius. Tracks like Bath, Don't Look Down, Geronimo, Tonight We Fly, Drinking Song, Book Lovers. It's all just wonderful, wonderful stuff. It's got my favourite Divine Comedy track on there, which is Don't Look Down, and my second favourite, which is The Drinking Song, so there we go. But absolutely love the album. Again, like all the albums on this, heartily recommend it. Number 6, Promenade by Divine Comedy. Okay, track 5 is Different Class by Pulp. Again, Pulp, absolutely love. Their early stuff doesn't do that much for me. Some of it you can see seeds of what would come, but it wasn't until His and Hers that Pulp were Pulp. His and Hers was the first album that I got, which is a brilliant album, but then Different Class hit and it went out into the stratosphere. Obviously the lead single from it, which came out quite a while before, was Common People, which everybody knows is one of the greatest songs ever written. Disco 2000, Sorted for Ease and Whiz, Misfits, Misshapes. Brain's gone dead. It's 6:40 in the morning. I'm a bit still. I've had 2 sips of coffee, so I'm not even fully awake. But yeah, Misshapes. So those were classic singles, but the whole album, again, it's an album that, as I've said on the others, it flows brilliantly from start to finish. All the songs are great, can't fault it. Different Class by Pulp. Number 4 is Blood Sugar Sex Magik by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I've missed one. I've just realised that I've missed one. Bugger. Okay, I missed number 8. So I'm going to go back to number 8. I might edit this all together. I might just leave it like this. Yes, I'm going to leave it like this. Sod it. Number 8 was Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. GNR's debut album. Just, what can I say? It is probably the best rock album, in my opinion, ever written. Probably the best debut album ever written. Yeah, I think I'd probably say that. Again, album that flows brilliantly from start to finish. Every track on it is a classic. Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, Sweet Child of Mine, Mr. Brownstone, Night Train, It's So Easy, Rocket Queen. It's just, yes, the whole thing. Yeah, what can you say? Easily their best work as well. Use Your Illusions 1 and 2 were really good, but had a couple of tracks on there that, you know, like My World, and didn't really need a different version of Don't Cry on each album, and different things like that. Just diminished them slightly, but Appetite for Destruction, mwah, perfect. Right, so that was number 8. You've seen 7, 6 and 5. So number 4, as I say, is Blood Sugar Sex Magik by Red Hot Chili Peppers. Chili Peppers, I've gone through an interesting relationship with. I sort of discovered them through just reading about them, and they're a brilliant live act and all that. So I got... I'm trying to remember which way around it was. No, I didn't. I think Blood Sugar Sex Magik was the first thing of theirs that I actually bought when it was... Yes, it was. Yes, I know exactly. No. Start all that again. Red Hot Chili Peppers, I discovered seeing them on, I think it was the MTV Music Awards, performing Give It Away. And instantly fell in love with that song, so bought the album. I didn't even know Under the Bridge at that time, I don't think. But absolutely loved the album. It's just, I've used this before, but it's peak Chili Peppers. Their early stuff, some of it's really good, some of it's dodgy. They definitely grew from album to album. Mother's Milk, the previous album, was nearly there. Again, Freaky Style, the album before that, heading in the right direction, but reached Blood Sugar Sex Magik, which was their first on Warner's, and it just was perfect. Songwriting was brilliant, it was funny, it was funky, it was rocky, it was perfect. After that, John Frusciante left and was replaced by Dave Navarro, and they did the One Hot Minute album, which I really like. There's some really good tracks on there. John Frusciante came back, Californication, and what was the album? Brain's Gone Dead. Was the album called By the Way? I think it was. Anyway, the two albums after he came back, the first two were very good, but were starting to get a bit samey. Stadium Arcadium came out, double album, and that killed it for me. In my opinion, and this is only my opinion, it could easily have been a single album. B, probably only had 3 or 4 really good tracks on there, and I just sort of gave up on them after that. I haven't bought their last 2 albums. What I've heard from them doesn't do much for me. I think, sadly, they're one of these bands who really needed the drugs to be really, really good. Saw them live a couple of times. First time was at Earl's Court. They were good, but the sound was terrible, so that sort of killed it a bit for me. Then I saw them at Hyde Park. Really good gig, but I hated Hyde Park as a venue. Yeah, you know, I will never go back there again for a gig. That's one of the reasons why I've never seen Blur, is that since I've been a regular gig goer, it's been since they reformed, and they've only played either very small gigs where it's impossible to get tickets to, or Hyde Park, which I refuse to go to. So I'm hoping next time they get back together, if they do, they play some more sensible venues. But it's just horrible, Hyde Park, for a venue. It's just far too big, and you're just watching sticks on a screen, and the sound's delayed, and yeah, didn't like it at all. But anyway, yes, so number 4 is easily Red Hot Chili Peppers' best album, Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Then we move on to 3, and it is, in my opinion, probably the big 3, although Divine Comedy are my favourite band. I don't really even class these as a favourite, because they're just the band of all time, and that is, of course, the Beatles. And, you know, if I had to rank them, yes, they'd probably be joint favourite with Divine Comedy. But yes, my favourite Beatles album is Revolver. It's almost become a cliche to say that the cliche of Sgt. Pepper's being their best album is false, and Revolver is their best album, if that makes sense. But it's true, which is why it's not really a cliche. Revolver is a better album than Sgt. Pepper's. Sgt. Pepper's has got caught up in the hype around it being the first concept album. Don't get me wrong, Sgt. Pepper's is brilliant. It's easily in their top 5, probably even their top 3, maybe not. No, it was definitely in their top 5. And as I say, it's brilliant. And as much as I love George Harrison, what kills Sgt. Pepper's for me is Within You Without You. It just doesn't really fit on the album to me, and it's not a song that I really enjoy listening to. I think if it didn't have that on, it might be a bit higher. If it had even if it had, it's only a Northern song, which is from about the same period, I'd probably prefer that, and I think that might even fit into the album better. But anyway, we're not talking about Sgt. Pepper, we're talking about Revolver. It is just genius. A word I've used a lot in this, but they are my favourite albums, so I would do. George's contributions are amazing, particularly Taxman. We've got Smile Never Knows from John. Wow. Yellow Submarine. I mean, again, it's a novelty song, but it is a magnificent novelty song. Got to Get You In My Life. Dr. Robert. It's just, oh, yeah, love Revolver. Abbey Road's nearly up there with Revolver. And White Album, Rubber Soul, you know, those sort of, but Revolver, genius. Number 2, and we're on to Bowie. Bowie, I'm not sure if I've talked about this on another one or not. Not don't think, might have done. No, I don't think I have. Bowie, I started off with just getting his singles collection, really enjoyed that. Went to the Net Aid charity concert, which was the last big charity concert at the old Wembley Stadium. Primarily went because Robbie Williams was playing. but the lineup was really good, apart from Eurythmics, who I can't stand. But it had Catatonia, The Cause, Bryan Adams, George Michael. I'm missing Stereophonics. I think I'm missing somebody else, and Robbie and Bowie. We stood outside, and we could hear Bowie soundcheck, and I could hear, oh, he's doing Driving Saturday. That's interesting. So that built up the excitement. Went in, watching all the acts. Time for Bowie to come on. He walks on stage, just him and Mike Garson on piano, and he does Life on Mars. And I was just blown away. And I was just sort of, it's David fucking Bowie. It's David fucking Bowie. And his set was sublime. It was tracks from the Brain Hours album, which is one of his best albums, certainly his best in my opinion. More recent album until the two last albums, you know what I mean. Yeah, so after that was it. I thought, right, I'm getting all his stuff, so I did. Gradually through Britannia, ordered all his albums, and my favourite one of which, as we're getting to, is my second favourite album of all time, and that's Hunky Dory. Depending on how you class his early albums of his main body of work, Hunky Dory was his third album. It was the one released before Ziggy Stardust, and you can just sort of sense the formation of Ziggy through some of these songs. It's another album that just flows brilliantly. The songwriting is brilliant. Obviously it's got Life on Mars on, which is again one of the greatest songs ever written. Kooks, I love. Changes, Andy Warhol, and you know, it's just one of those albums, 8-line poem, you can just sit to, and again, you just sit back. It's another good Sunday morning record. You can just sort of sit back and let it wash over you, and it's just wonderful. Hunky Dory by David Bowie. And my favourite album of all time, obviously, is a Prince album. Which one would it be? It's actually an easy choice for me. Much as I love all his work, much as I could easily fill this top 10 with 10 Prince albums, and off the top of my head, if I had to, Purple Rain, Sign of the Times, Dirty Mind, Parade, Love Sexy, Diamonds and Pearls, Rainbow Children, I'm trying to remember what ones I've said and how. Come, 1999, and A Gold Experience, which is my #1 album of all time. Gold Experience was his first album released as The Symbol. Yeah, I see it there. Had a bit of a convoluted history at the time. The main reason behind The Symbol name change, despite what he tried to say at the time about it being a spiritual thing, was basically Prince recorded a hell of a lot of music. He wanted to get it out there. By the time he was releasing an album, touring the album, you know, and doing all the promotion, in that time he's already written 2 more albums. But Warner Brothers wanted to have album tour to maximise sales, which you can understand, but that's not the way his mind worked. He was a music machine and he wanted to get it out there. So his protest was, I want, you know, release album, I'll tour, you know, all the while. Warner's wanted nothing of it. So he was also tied in with that was ownership of his recordings, the masters of his recordings, which again is where the slave bit came from. But yeah, so one of the main cruxes was he had this album, The Gold Experience, which he believed was up there with his best work, and obviously I agree. he wanted it out there. Warner Brothers were saying, no, it's too soon, we can't release it. Lots of convoluted stuff anyway. It's too much to get into in a short video. But in the end, he toured on the Live Experience tour before the album came out and played most of the album on that tour. He also played a few tracks from the Come album, which Warner Brothers did release. Again, quickly, at various times, some of the tracks from Gold Experience were on the Come album, and some of the tracks from the Come album were on the Gold Experience before the final track listings were settled. He also recorded a TV special, an hour-long video film type thing called The Beautiful Experience, where again a lot of the songs from Gold Experience and from Come were performed before they had been released. So these songs were in fans' minds, if you like, before they actually came out. As I say, the Live Experience tour was largely promoting the Gold Experience tour album, which at the time he was saying would never come out. Went to see it, Wembley Arena, March 5th, 1995. Played it, as always, wonderful, wonderful concert. Last track, he played the title track, Gold, and goosebumps. If you've watched my Prince video, I've talked about this, but goosebumps all over, and to this day, whenever I hear the song, goosebumps all over. Album eventually did come out. Unfortunately, one of the highlights from the live shows, Days of Wild, was dropped from a track listing at the last minute because apparently Prince had other plans for it. What those plans were never really came to fruition, because in the end we just got a couple of live versions released on various releases. But even without that, it is still just perfect album. Some people might be a bit dodgy because it's got segues between the songs with what's called the NPG operator speaking, but it just adds to the flow of the album for me, and it's a very Princey thing to do anyway. But if I had to say it's got a fault as an album, We March. Easily the weakest track on there, but every other track, 10 out of 10, genius track for me. I Hate You was another single from it. Dolphin wasn't quite a single, but a video was released but was played a lot. But other tracks on there, Endorphin Machine, P Control, Pussy Control, Now, Shy, 319, Billy Jack Bitch. Just a whole thing. Just wonderful. Oh, and of course, The Most Beautiful Girl in the World, which the single version, which was released in '94, in February, isn't one of my favourite Prince songs. The actual song I love, but Prince's vocal on it just doesn't quite work for me. So the fact that it's his biggest hit and was his only UK #1 just grates on me a little bit, because it's a track that you hear a lot and I think, oh, he's done so much better stuff. But anyway, but the album version, the vocal's slightly different, and it's got a few different sound effects, if you like, in the background of the song. It's a different version of the song, and it is far superior, and I enjoy it much, much more. Anyway, that's that. So yes, my #1 album of all time is The Gold Experience by Symbol or Prince. And that's it. Let me know down below if there's any albums by these artists that you prefer. If there's any albums that you think maybe I might like but isn't on this list, that you think maybe I don't know, you know, just put stuff down below. Speak to me. Thank you for watching. Again, apologies, there's been a delay. Apologies, I've been a bit all over the place on this one, but it's early in the morning, but I wanted to get one recorded and out there. Next video will almost certainly, because it's only, oh, screen's gone, screensaver's gone in the background, sorry about that. Next video will almost certainly be my Martin's Meets for London Film and Comic Con, because that's the end of next week. Bloody hell, that's come up quick. So I'll be going all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll do a separate video for each day. probably, I might film a few bits while I'm there, but it'll probably just be the normal format of me sitting here telling you who I've met, showing off my autographs and photos, etc. I will try and get them recorded each night so that I can start uploading them on Monday, because I'm day off Monday, back to work Tuesday. I'm thinking out loud here. So I'll try and get them uploaded on Monday 31st July, I think it is, or 30th. Monday 30th of July, but it'll be late. It might even be overnight into the Tuesday they first appear. If not, they will probably be up on the Thursday or Friday of that week, because I'll be days off then. He says, thinking out loud. No, I'm not. I'm weekend off. It'll be over a weekend then, probably. Although I'm busy. Again, thinking out loud. They should start up. I'll try and get at least one up at the start of the week, if not all of them, and then they will appear gradually after that. Enough waffling. Thank you for watching. Like if you've liked this video, subscribe if you want to, and enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye.